Man, I love the peaceful dove Tucker Carlson talking about bombing Mexico. Everyone's talking about bombing Iran, but hypothetically, no one is talking about bombing Mexico. We should be talking about bombing Mexico more. What are they going to do? Bomb us back? They can't. Let's look at Tucker Carlson. America's principles are at stake.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. The Biden administration arrested Donald Trump.
Dude, he's doing the thing. Okay, back in the day when Tucker Carlson had a built-in audience, he would have to engage it. I mean, he could engage in whatever the he wanted to because the ratings were like basically built in. Nowadays, when my man is making content, because he's doing it at the lowest end of content creation, which is Twitter, a platform where every single content creator on said platform is desperately trying to find an avenue of monetization off of the platform, whether it be a Substack, whether it be a Patreon and a podcast, whether it be a Ko-Fi. Tucker Carlson has dived in head first, okay? Head first. That's what he's doing. Which is really bad. So for that purpose, he has to cover whatever the is popping. So now he's doing like quick returns. I'm going to do a 13-minute slot on the Biden administration. Okay. So that's great. So also this comes immediately after Fox has sent Tucker Carlson a cease and desist letter, by the way. Apparently Fox News sent a cease and desist letter to Tucker Carlson as he ramps up a competing series on Twitter that drew a combined 169 million views for its first 2 episodes, Axios has learned. Those views are nothing, but it doesn't matter. Everyone that writes media reporting is 174 years old mentally, so they literally cannot comprehend that Twitter views are insignificant. Twitter views are not the same as like television views. Twitter views are not even the same as Twitch views. Okay. Anyway, why it matters. The contract battle between Fox and its former top host, who was taken off the air on April after the network's historic Dominion settlement, has mighty repercussions for the conservative media ecosystem. With Tucker on Twitter, Carlson and his growing production team are working to elevate Elon Musk's social media site as a news platform. The cease and desist letter has a not for publication in bold at the top. Fox is continuing to pay Carlson and maintains that his contract keeps his content exclusive to Fox through December 31st, 2024. Oh my God. They're paying to bench him? Okay, first of all, shelving him like this while still paying him is well worth the price if you want to kill him, okay? That's it. Because Fox News knows, just like Tucker Carlson, that if Tucker Carlson goes away for until 2024, it's over. It is so Jover for him, okay? Which is why he's like desperately trying to maintain some kind of audience, cultivate some kind of fan base. So that's it. That's why Fox News is like saying, no, we'll keep paying your ass. You know, don't violate your non-compete. They also might want to just like kick him off the coverage. They probably don't want to keep paying him millions of dollars. You know what I mean?
They knew this was coming. Everyone who's paid attention knew it was. What happened was always going to happen. It's been inevitable since February 16, 2016. That's the day Donald Trump made a blood enemy of the largest and most powerful organization in human history, which would be the federal government. Despite what you may remember, it wasn't anything that Trump had said about immigration or trade with China or rapists from Mexico. Those are the stories that dominated the headlines that year. Trump's a racist, they screamed. Stop him. But inside Washington, that was just noise. None of it really rated. Identity politics doesn't mean much to permanent Washington. What matters then and now is foreign policy. The invasions and occupations and proxy war. The decisions that determine which global populations will thrive and which will die. The policies that come with trillion-dollar price tag. The ones that over time have made the counties around DC the richest suburbs in the world. In Washington, that's what actually matters. And it's obvious when you look carefully. When there's a debate about anything else, for example, the debt ceiling, both sides take their assigned positions and they start yelling.
This is why Tucker Carlson is such a silly little bitch, okay? He's making it seem like Donald Trump is this wonderful, peaceful dove, and that's why they hate him. This is the guy that, one, wants to literally have a Cold War with China, okay? This is also, the guy he's talking about is Donald Trump, who has made an effort to engage in that Cold War with China, but not really. But more importantly, he's the guy who literally assassinated a foreign head of state, okay? A foreign head of state. Only reason why that didn't turn into further conflict is because, I mean, what the fuck was Iran going to do? The idea that Donald Trump, who has, one, threatened to do terrorism and destroy, like, fucking landmarks, like cultural landmarks, or that the guy who, like, again, assassinated Soleimani, a general, not a head of state. I mean, he's one of the fucking leaders. Yes, he's a general, but he was a very popular general, okay? The idea that, like, Donald Trump's a peaceful dove when he actually turned around and destroyed Obama's signature and perhaps one of his only few good moves in terms of foreign policy, which is of course the Iran denuclearization agreement, which took so long and multiple nations had to get involved in this process. He took that and he ripped it apart and then added additional sanctions to Iran, even though they were following through on the agreement, even though the agreement was had fallen apart, destroyed relationships with Cuba. This guy is not a fucking peaceful dove, okay? Anyone that tells you that Donald Trump was a peaceful dove is a fucking delusional weirdo. The only area where Donald Trump actually excelled as far as foreign policy goes was, one, he was not very good at doing coups, even though he still tried. That was number one. And number two, he let the Korean relations be handled by the Koreans. That's it. That was those were the only two good things that he did.
But when Congress decides to start a war, no matter how foolish or counterproductive or obviously disconnected from America's core interests that war may be, when that happens, the leaders of both parties automatically jump behind it like circus clowns. And then they stay there, sometimes for decades. They defend that war relentlessly against all evidence until somebody finally rings the all clear bell.
What do you mean?
And they can begin to admit that actually, maybe it wasn't such a great idea. We meant well, but it just didn't out. The good news is we've learned a lot of important lessons. In the end, they usually do say something like that, but only after emotions have cooled and the damning details have begun to fade from collective memory. It's an apology that's not actually an apology, much less repentance, and it's years too late to matter in any case. But until then, that's all you're getting. Until then, no dissent is allowed. That's the first rule of Washington. But somehow, Trump didn't bother to follow it. He is from out of town, so maybe he didn't know it was a rule, or maybe he just didn't care. Either way, 7.5 years later, we can point to the precise moment that...
Don't let Tucker Carlson's glazing of Donald Trump distract you from the unearthed text messages that showed how much he fucking despises him. I will never ever forget that. That's when you're fucking totally trapped by your audience, okay? You're not even on Fox News anymore. You have your own Twitter show, okay? You have every freedom known to man, okay? I can say whatever the fuck I want about whatever fucking politician I want, okay? If I don't like a politician, I can say it. If I like a politician, I can say it. It's awesome. And I'm on Twitch. You're on an objectively lower website than Twitch. How do I know that? Because all those fucking meme accounts on Twitter are desperately trying to move away from Twitter, actually make money at another platform by doing the same kind of posting that they're doing. You have a show on Twitter and you still have to fucking say nice things about Donald Trump. Sad state of affairs. Well, here's Tucker saying we should have bombed Mexico as well as Iran.
Yes, Soleimani was linked to the death of Americans. Nobody mourns his passing. But Mexico and China are also linked to the deaths of Americans. Each has flooded our country with narcotics, from which tens of thousands of Americans die every single year. Not that anyone...
Man, I love the peaceful dove Tucker Carlson talking about bombing Mexico.
In power cares. So does that mean...
God, he's such a fucking peaceful dove, dude. Everyone's talking about bombing Iran, but hypothetically, no one is talking about bombing Mexico. We should be talking about bombing Mexico more. What are they going to do? Bomb us back? They can't. Anyway, mind you, this is right after they found out about the largest lithium mine on the planet besides in Mexico. I don't think this was then, but it doesn't matter. I don't even think Tucker Carlson is caring about resource extraction, and that's why he's cutting this narrative about bombing Mexico. I think he's doing it because he thinks it plays well.
Permanent Washington decided to send Donald Trump to prison. Here it is. It's from the Republican candidates debate in Greenville, South Carolina.
We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East. They lied. Okay. They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
All right. We should never have been in Iraq, Trump said. We destabilized the Middle East. Now, by the time Trump said that, a lot lot of Republican primary voters were starting to reach the same conclusion. How could they not? But it was the next line that doomed Trump to today's arrest. They lied, he said. There were no weapons of mass destruction, and they knew there were none. Now, when he said that, a few in the crowd booed. Most just sat there in silence, stunned. Can he say that? Well, he said it anyway. And by saying that, he sealed his fate. That was the one thing you were not allowed to say, because it implicated too many people on both sides, which on this topic is really just one side. Hillary Clinton was guilty of it, but so was Paul Ryan. All of them were guilty. They all knew, they all lied. And to a person, they hated Donald Trump for exposing them. After that, it was pretty clear that even if he did get elected president, Trump was going to have a very hard time controlling the federal government he was supposed to be in charge of. Most of permanent Washington decided that thwarting Trump was the single most important mission in their life. Everything depended on it. Many of them said so publicly, but others didn't say so publicly. In fact, the stealthier ones took another path. They ran toward Trump, not away from him. They sucked up to him. They ingratiated themselves with the man they intuitively understood was susceptible to flattery, which Trump is. And they did this in order to subvert his new administration from the inside. There were a number of these, and you could spot them immediately. They were flatterers. Invariably, the ones who flattered Trump the most hated him the most and disagreed the most strongly with his views. You saw them in the hallways of the White House and at press conferences. They were there slobbering over their boss with elaborate self-abasement, as if they were addressing a monarch or a god. It was a scene from the Ottoman court. It was filthy and decadent, and it was false. Mike Pence, Nikki Haley.
What the fuck? Yo, chill, bro. Why is he coming for the Ottomans, dude? Fucking saying it's a scene from the Ottoman courts is decadent and filthy. Suck my dick, bro. You fucking stay away. Fuck you know about the Ottoman courts, bitch ass. Fucking keep your fucking the Ottoman name out of your mouth, okay?
Pompeo, Lindsey Graham in the Congress. They all called Trump a visionary genius up until the moment he lost power. And then they unsheathed their real agenda, as always the neocon war agenda, and they piled on with maximum force.
Like, in order to maintain an audience on Twitter or on the internet, you have to talk about like dumb shit. You have to talk about some of the stuff he actually talked about on his show, but you have to like learn more about the fuckable green M&Ms and stuff. You know what I mean? Like Tim Pool is like always on. You know what I mean? He's always aware. He's like, oh, Nick Merckx' skin was removed. This is like objectively evil. You know what I mean? Tucker Carlson and his writers don't fucking know enough about like Nick Merckx' Call of Duty skin to have a position on it, you know?
Relish and verve. Now this
Washington is a city boring.
And you're the untouchable in this.
Like, I'm sorry, but like fucking Days Crypto Monkey is not like genuinely looking at this and going, oh, dude, it's so sick. Who's this for? Who's this for, Tucker? Your videos are going to go downhill if you keep fucking cutting content without actually trying to serve an audience. Like right now, Tucker is popping, quote unquote, by Twitter standards because he's on Twitter. He's writing for Twitter and he's basically fucking saying like, he's currently cutting content and is currently interesting because people like that he's doing a show that he used to do on television, but on Twitter. That is going to wear off. The novelty of that is going to wear off. And at a certain point, he's going to start having to like actually address certain things, make content that is unique and interesting. He's in the game just like I am. We're in the same game now. And unfortunately for Tucker, he's in a worse position overall than myself in this game. You know what I mean? More milk porn coverage and less of this, Tucker.